Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here we go.
We bring you this special radio broadcast.
It's starting.
I'm sure a lot of people think this is just some radio shtick.
Let's talk to these people. Let's talk about culture.
It's a primitive culture.
Let's talk about what's best in life.
What is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of your women.
Talk about crushing your enemies.
This time, it's for real.
Let's talk party politics. But don't expect the same old kind of talk radio show.
But a new wind was about to blow.
On this show, you get the high-flying conservative columnist from National Review Online, Jim Garrity, and the wit and wisdom and experience of broadcast veteran Mickey White. So let's get to it. This is the Jim and Mickey Show.
Welcome to the Jim and Mickey Show, brought to you by Delta Tau Chi of Faber College, a proud tradition of existence for the past 100 years. I am Jim Garrity, joined by Mickey White, and this is we're approaching our holiday season, but we are going to touch on a topic near and dear to Mickey's heart, taking our cues from the news. Last I saw, there is an angry mob surrounding the offices of Rolling Stone, and it is beginning to look a bit like the magazine and the institution may not exist for not too much longer.
Or, it could be owned by a certain fraternity at UVA. I hope that Phi Psi owns them flat out when this is all done. But having said that, yes, and glad to be here with you always, Jim, here live from D.C., as it turns out this week. And the thing about it is, that's been all over the news. But what has not been all over the news is the positive side of Greek life. And what people, I'm Greek. I pledged my second semester sophomore year. I did it because I met a group of girls that as it turns out, I was already hanging out with. Didn't even know they were in a sorority. I pledged, I rushed, I pledged, I did all of it. I got my letters. I even did the secret initiation. They did not give me a decoder ring, which I was really super disappointed about. And I'm a Phi Mu. And so I know a lot of, obviously, and we were actually a fraternity, although we call it a sorority. We were the second founded in the country. And so our name is actually Phi Mu Fraternity legally, even though we are made up of girls. So there's a little Phi Mu history for you. All
right. So one of the questions that has been on my mind, because undisputably and for very good reason, members of fraternities and sororities across the country feel like in a long history of unflattering and unfair, biased and caricatured media coverage.
Oh, absolutely.
The Rolling Stone story really stands out and really plays into people's worst stereotypes and worst perceptions of that.
And going back to, the first fraternity movie I can think of that people started to think of frat boys as one thing versus another is Animal House. Mm-hmm. And that's all well and good, but it's a comedy, not a documentary. And I think then you get into the Revenge of the Nerds and the multiple sequels where it was, they had I can't even tell you how many movies are on that same formulaic, and even going to old school more recently, where you have like the cool fraternity and then there's like the nerdy fraternity. And it kind of, it replicates that whole jocks versus nerds thing that all the writers in Hollywood love to perpetuate. And what are we supposed to think when this is what's put out? But the problem is that's not what Greek life is about at all.
Question, because we know that there are movies that
to be fair, though, I did know somebody they called Flounder. So okay.
There you go. Look, so media and both media in terms of entertainment media and news coverage, it slants everything. You're never going to get a perfect portrait of every institution. But do you think it's particularly bad for Greek life on college campuses?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. And I think there's a lot of stereotypes that are out there. They're just inaccurate. The reality is, yes, we party. We're college students. Everybody does it. Get over that part and move forward to what else do Greek students do that non-Greek students do not? Well, they are required to maintain a certain grade point average in order to stay eligible within their activities for their sorority or fraternity.
To put you on the spot, what was your GPA that you had to keep?
I believe it was 3.5.
Oh, that's really good. That's like a B plus, right? I mean, that's okay.
And the lowest one that I know of on campus was a 2.5.
All right, and that's either a C plus or B minus. I mean, that's not, it's obviously easier to achieve, but it's not, not nothing.
Yeah. And again, not nothing, but again, more than others are required to stay in college and participate in the activities that they like to do. And part of that is also we required our pledges to do homework. Basically, we had, back when in high school, they had study hall. And so we gave them an hour a week of study hall where they would be working on things. And some would consider that hazing. I think it's a great way of encouraging them to make education a part of their college experience. Then we also did a great deal of philanthropic work. Our particular charity was Children's Miracle Network. We did fundraisers throughout the year, and we also did fundraisers for local charities. We spent a lot of time with community service, and these are the kind of things that, quite frankly, you don't find a general college student that's not Greek doing. So there's a lot of positive things that the Greek community does that, quite frankly, other college students have such an image of themselves as being above the Greek community, and I don't see them out collecting money for Children's Miracle Network on Saturday mornings.
Yeah, so here's my question. One of the questions I would have for you. One, when people would join the fraternity you were in, notice I used fraternity.
Oh, I did. That was very nice.
I pay attention to you.
Yeah, Mary and Martha would be really happy right now.
Would people come in with like false sense of what fraternity life was like because of the Hollywood movies and stuff?
I mean, I can't speak for fraternities. I can speak for mine, and sororities. And you're in college. You're dealing with college age people. So yeah, you're going to have certain things that are real. I mean, stereotypes are all based in reality. But they're not all like that, and that's not all the time. Like, did we have wild parties? Yes. Was that what we did every single Friday night? No. We had a lot of other things to do to keep us busy and planned a lot of the activities and events that non-Greek students still participated in on campus as well. Producing intramural sports and things like that. And again, like I said, even community service that, quite frankly, most college students don't do, and Greek students are, quite frankly, required. There's a lot of things are required to be a Greek student. And I actually sent you an article this morning. It's like 2 years old from USA Today. And it talks about the benefits of Greek life. And one of the most interesting things I found is that they have a higher graduation rate, which isn't surprising to me, but I bet is surprising to a lot of other people. They also graduate faster. Greek students tend to graduate in the actual 4-year plan. And I think the number was something like 87% of active Greek members graduate within the actual 4-year plan. So that tells you something about the responsibility it teaches you. And because you can really it gets into an almost political system inside. There's a board, you elect people to it. You're in charge of different things. Some people are in charge of philanthropic things. Some people are in charge of social activities. Other people are in charge of, just handling the money and what we do with things, et cetera, just like you would have with any other board. And then overseeing the Greek Council, you have the exact same thing. It's called a Panhellenic Council. And someone is there from each of the fraternities and sororities representing. And they really help form a lot of what the other non-Greek students enjoy as part of their everyday life in college. And a lot of times it kind of happens and no one pays any attention to where it comes from until, of course, something like this happens. And then suddenly everybody wants to talk about Greeks.
Well, I was going to say, actually, I think the aspect, I would say the draconian response from the University of Virginia president.
Oh, dude, seriously, I can't even with that.
Well, okay, because for anyone who hasn't heard, shortly after the Rolling Stone article came out, University President Sullivan over at University of Virginia suspended all fraternity and sorority activities on campus for the rest of the semester.
Fraternities and sororities. Yeah. Just start there.
Yeah, there's that aspect, all based on unproved. There's no criminal charges that came up, and obviously the claims of the witness are now starting to become very contradicted by both known facts and previous versions of the story she had told.
I want to know when she's lifting this ban.
Well,
because it's already been proven. 9th. It's already been proven by the witnesses, by the victim Jackie's own statements, that this was not something that happened at a frat. That this absolutely did not happen at Phi Psi, and so therefore everything else after that, as far as the university president is concerned, is really null and void. Like, that's up for the police to decide and for her to deal with and whatever with her therapist and her friends and her lawyers.
All right.
But as far as UVA is concerned, once she says that did not happen at Phi Psi, that part was untrue, there should have been an immediate ban lifted. Because, one, I'm not sure why sororities got banned in the first place.
Fair point.
I'm not sure why all fraternities got banned if Phi Psi was the target. And now that we know that that was false, I have no reason to understand why she is punishing all of these innocent students who generally, and again, by suspending all Greek activities, that means you are suspending all of their community service that they do there in Charlottesville, all of the philanthropic activities that they do there in Charlottesville, and for their national chapters charity as well. And not to mention, just quite frankly, ruining some of these girls and guys' entire college experience with this, and there's just no call for it. I truly hope that the UVA alum, and maybe some are actually listening, get on them about this, because this is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, okay, so here's...
And what does that say about all your previous alum that graduated and went on to do great things that were in fraternities? In that article I sent you this morning, the very first female astronaut was in a sorority.
All right. My question to you,
how's that for you and what you think of the sorority girl image?
So I had put this to you, and you had been very strongly opposed to this. And I hope we have enough time to address this in depth. If university administrators are becoming so politically correct and so knee-jerk, reflexively anti-fraternity and sorority, why shouldn't fraternities and sororities seek out becoming independent and not affiliated with universities? I'm
going to keep this really, really simple.
Sure.
It has to do with the infrastructure of the Greek system. There are usually national chapters of a fraternity as well as local chapters of a fraternity. They are all bound by the same rules across the country, and they are all tied into the university. And you want to be a recognized fraternity by your university so that there are benefits to that, as I said, in participating in the Panhellenic Council, and it basically is a certain amount of legitimacy that is required to be tied to the university because of the activities that they do. And at any time, a national chapter can take away a local chapter's charter. They can do it temporarily or permanently take away their charter if they are caught breaking any of these rules, and then they are no longer an official fraternity on that campus either.
Everything you're saying makes absolute sense. I do kind of wonder if at some point down the road, if you see sufficiently bad decisions coming out of university administrators like this.
Well, the administrators are the problem, but again,
fear and hysteria. Yeah. That no one's going to want to be voluntarily under the authority of these out-of-their-mind university administrators who can be easily flustered into making knee-jerk decisions. And then once they make those knee-jerk decisions...
some of the national... And it'll be interesting to see what happens at the National Panhellenic Council this year, because they may very well take that into consideration and take a look at some of their charters and agreements with some of these schools and, take a look at whether or not it's worth putting the money that they put into it along with their alumni.
I think, there are many chapters of this story waiting to be written, I suspect.
There are, but, I'm one of those girls, and I've said it on Twitter, and I will say it again. I went to college. I had a great experience. I was a Phi Mu. I was Greek. I loved frat boys. I had a great time with them. I never experienced anything like what people were talking about theoretically happened. Maybe, I don't know. But to me, some of those frat boys were my best friends, and they still are. You'd probably be surprised. Your doctor's probably a frat guy, too. I'm Mickey White. He's Jim Garrity, and we'll be right back.
I had no choice the news that was given to me on August 2nd.
Gold Star mom, Debbie Lee.
But I did have a choice how I responded.
In August 2006, Mark Allen Lee became the first Navy SEAL to lose his life in Iraq.
I chose to put on Mark's boots, pick up his weapon, and stay in the fight for our troops and their families.
And America's Mighty Warriors was born.
Mark's name meant Mighty Warrior, and he definitely lived up to his name.
And America's Mighty Warriors